My son wrote, "Don't come to our house for Christmas. My wife is against you." I just smiled. He didn't know that their house had belonged to me for a long time. I sent a text, and in 1 hour, my son was standing outside my door. "I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end and let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled." I had spent 32 years building my life in this country. 32 years since I'd arrived from nothing, worked 2 jobs, saved every penny, and finally bought my own house. Then 5 years ago, when my son Michael got married, I made what I thought was a generous decision. I put the down payment on a beautiful 3-bedroom house for him and his new wife, Jessica. The house was in my name just temporarily. I'd told them until they built up their credit. "Don't worry about it," I'd said. "We're family." For the first year, everything seemed perfect. Michael called every Sunday. They invited me for dinners. Jessica smiled and hugged me, calling me Mom. I should have known it was too good to be true. The changes started small. Michael's Sunday calls became bi-weekly, then monthly. When I suggested visiting, there was always an excuse. "Jessica's not feeling well. We have plans. The house is a mess." I tried not to read too much into it. Young couples needed their space, didn't they? But then came Thanksgiving last year. I'd arrived at their door with my famous pumpkin pie, the one Michael had loved since childhood. Jessica opened the door, her smile tight and mechanical. "Oh, you're here," she'd said, as if I hadn't confirmed 3 times that week. Throughout dinner, she'd made little comments. Michael's mother never taught him to pick up after himself. I guess some people didn't learn proper table manners growing up. Each jab was delivered with a laugh, as if joking, but her eyes were cold. Michael said nothing. My son, who used to defend me from playground bullies, sat there silently pushing food around his plate. I started noticing other things. When I called Jessica, often answered Michael's phone. "He's busy," she'd say curtly. "I'll tell him you called." He never called back. When I did reach him, our conversations felt rushed, strained. He spoke in short sentences as if someone was listening. Was someone listening? 3 months ago, I dropped by unannounced with some of Michael's childhood photos I'd found while cleaning. Through the window, I saw them laughing together. Jessica's hand on his arm, both of them relaxed and happy. The moment Jessica saw my car, her expression shifted. She whispered something to Michael and his face darkened. When they opened the door, the warmth I'd witnessed seconds earlier had vanished completely. "We weren't expecting you," Jessica said, not inviting me in. "I just wanted to give Michael these photos." "You can't just show up whenever you want," she'd interrupted. "We have boundaries." Boundaries? The word stung like a slab. Since when did a mother need permission to see her son? "Last month I'd called to ask about Christmas plans," Jessica answered. "We're doing our own thing this year," she'd said flatly. "Just the 2 of us. It's important for our marriage." "But it's Christmas," I'd protested. "We always spend it together." "Things change," she'd replied and hung up. I'd cried that night. Actually cried. At 63 years old, I'd survived poverty and abusive first marriage cancer and rebuilding my life in a new country. But this, my own son, choosing someone else over me for Christmas, it broke something inside me. Then came yesterday, December 23rd. I was wrapping presents for Michael. Yes, I'd bought them anyway, hoping he'd change his mind. When my phone buzzed, a text message from Michael. My heart leaped. Maybe he was calling to apologize, to invite me after all. I opened it. "Don't come to our house for Christmas. Jessica doesn't want you here. Respect our decision." I stared at those words until they blurred. Our house. Their house. The house. I bought the house that was still in my name with my money as the down payment, my name on the deed. And Jessica doesn't want me there. I read it again. Not "we decided" or "we need space." No, Jessica doesn't want you. My son hadn't even pretended this was his choice. He'd thrown his own mother away for a woman he'd known for 6 years, while I'd given him life, raised him alone, sacrificed everything for him. Something inside me didn't break this time. It crystallized, hardened, became clear and cold and sharp. I smiled. Actually smiled. Did they really think they could banish me from a house I owned? Did they truly believe I was just some helpless old woman who would accept this dismissal? My fingers moved across my phone screen, typing a response. Just 3 sentences, simple, direct, devastating. I pressed send, then I waited. Exactly 53 minutes later, I heard a car screech into my driveway. Through my living room window, I watched Michael slam his car door. His face was red, his movements jerky with panic. He practically ran to my front door, pounding on it before I could even stand up. Mom! Mom opened the door. I took my time, smoothed my cardigan, checked my reflection in the hallway mirror, let him knock 3 more times before I finally turned the lock. He burst in, wild-eyed and breathless. Mom, what the hell? You can't, just can't. What, Michael? I kept my voice calm, almost pleasant. Can't send a text message to my own son. You said you're evicting us. You said we have 30 days to get out. That's what the law requires in this state. 30 days notice for eviction. I looked it up. I walked past him into the kitchen, poured myself a cup of tea. My hands were steady, even though my heart was hammering. Would you like some tea, dear? This isn't funny. He followed me, his voice cracking. That's our home. We've lived there for 5 years. You can't just kick us out because of one text message. I turned to face him, really looked at him. When had my son become this stranger? When had he learned to prioritize a woman's demands over his own mother's feelings? One text message, I repeated softly. Is that what you think this is about? He faltered. Jessica. Just, she thought I held up my hand. Don't blame her for words that came from your phone. You're a 34-year-old man, Michael. You made a choice, Mom, please. His anger deflated into desperation. We can't afford to move right now. Jessica just quit her job to start her online business. And the rent anywhere else is... You should have thought about that before telling me not to come to my house for Christmas. The words hung between us. I watched understanding dawn on his face. The house he'd actually forgotten. Or maybe Jessica had made him forget. How many times had she referred to it as our house until he believed it? It was a mistake, he said quietly. I shouldn't have sent that text. But eviction, that's extreme. Was it? I thought about the past year, the canceled visits, the cold shoulders, the way Jessica had systematically cut me out of my son's life, piece by piece. While I'd stood by and let it happen because I didn't want to be the difficult mother-in-law, I thought about Thanksgiving sitting at their table while Jessica insulted me with a smile. I thought about calling Michael's phone and hearing Jessica's voice instead every single time. I thought about being erased from my own son's life while living in a house I'd provided for them. What's extreme, I said, is being told I'm not welcome in a house I own. What's extreme is my son choosing to hurt me because his wife demands it. What's extreme is realizing I raised someone who could discard me so easily. I'm not discarding you. Tears welled in his eyes. Mom, I love you. Why did you send that text, Michael? My voice broke despite myself. Why didn't you stand up to her even once, just once? He opened his mouth, closed, it looked away, and there it was. The truth we both knew, but he couldn't say. He was afraid of Jessica, afraid of her moods, her anger, her manipulation. He'd chosen the path of least resistance, and I'd been the sacrifice. I need you to leave now, I said quietly. Mom, 30 days, Michael. The notice is official. You have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. After he left, I sat in my kitchen shaking. What had I done? I'd just evicted my own son, my only child. The boy I'd raised alone after his father left us. The man I'd helped, supported, loved unconditionally for 34 years. But as I sat there, something else rose up through the fear. Something cold and hard and certain. I pulled out my laptop and started making lists. First, I needed documentation. I went to my filing cabinet and pulled out the house deed, the mortgage papers, every record of payment I'd made. My name, all my name. The house was mine legally and completely. Michael and Jessica had contributed nothing. Not to the down payment, not to the mortgage, nothing. Second, I needed to understand my legal standing. I researched tenant laws, eviction procedures, property rights. I took notes in my careful handwriting, the way I'd learned in my first job in America working as a clerk while studying English at night. Third, I needed to prepare for Jessica's next move, because there would be a next move. I knew her type now. I'd been too blind to see it before, but I saw it clearly now. She wouldn't accept this quietly. She'd fight. She'd manipulate. She'd try to turn Michael against me even more completely. But this time, I wouldn't be unprepared. This time, I would protect what was mine. The next morning, I drove to the law office of Patricia Henderson, the attorney who'd handled my will 2 years ago. Patricia was in her 50s, sharp-eyed and no nonsense. Exactly what I needed. I want to make sure my eviction notice is legally airtight, I told her, sliding the papers across her desk. She read them carefully, her expression neutral. This is your son and daughter-in-law. Yes, and they've been living there rentrée for 5 years. Yes, I covered the down payment. The house is entirely in my name. They've never paid a dime toward the mortgage or property taxes. Patricia leaned back in her chair. Then legally, you're well within your rights. The 30-day notice is proper. But Helen, she paused, choosing her words carefully. Are you sure about this? Family disputes can get very ugly very quickly. It's already ugly, I said quietly. I'm just making it official. She nodded slowly. All right, I'll file the eviction notice with the court today. You should also consider getting a formal property appraisal and documenting any damage to the house. If they've made unauthorized modifications, or if there's damage, you'll want records. I hadn't thought of that. Can you recommend someone? She wrote down a name and number, Bill Morrison. He's thorough and fast. Tell him I sent you. As I left her office, my phone buzzed. A text from Michael. We need to talk, please. I didn't respond. 2 days later, Bill Morrison walked through the house with me while Michael and Jessica were at work. I'd kept my spare key, of course. It was my house. I texted Michael that I was coming for an inspection, as was my legal right. What Bill found made my blood run cold. These walls were load-bearing, he said, pointing to the open concept living area. Someone removed them without a permit. That's a serious structural modification and a code violation. I stared at the space. I remembered when Michael first told me about their renovation. Jessica had been so excited. We're opening up the space. It'll be so modern. I thought they meant painting and decorating. There's more. Bill said grimly, leading me to the master bathroom. See this? They've completely redone the plumbing. Again, no permits that I can find in the city records, and this tile work. He tapped the wall and I heard a hollow sound. Water damage behind here, probably from improper installation. This could be tens of thousands in repairs. My house, my investment, they'd been destroying it. I'll have a full report for you by Friday, Bill said. But Mrs. Chen, you need to know. Between the unpermitted work and the water damage, you're looking at serious money to fix this properly. After he left, I sat in my car outside the house I'd bought with such hope. 5 years ago, the house that was supposed to secure my son's future. Instead, he and Jessica had gutted it, modified it, damaged it all without asking me, without permission, without even telling me the truth about what they were doing. That evening, my phone rang. Jessica. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Helen, her voice was cold, clipped. No more Mom. We received your little inspection notice. How dare you invade our privacy like that? It's my house, Jessica. I have every legal right. Quote, legal right. She laughed sharp and bitter. You're trying to make us homeless right before Christmas. What kind of mother does that? The kind whose son told her she's not welcome in her own property. Silence. Then that house has been our home for 5 years. Ours. We've put our heart and soul into it. We've made it beautiful. And you think you can just take it away. I'm not taking anything away. I'm reclaiming what was always mine. Michael will never forgive you for this. Her voice dropped to something ugly. You're going to die alone, old woman. No son, no grandchildren, no family. Is that really what you want? The threat was clear. Choose the house. Lose your son forever. My hand tightened on the phone. You've made unauthorized structural modifications to my property, removed load-bearing walls without permits, caused water damage. I have it all documented now. Her breath caught. You can't. 30 days, Jessica. The clock is ticking. I hung up. My hands were shaking. My heart was racing. But I'd done it. I'd stood up to her. For the first time in all these months of manipulation and cruelty, I'd pushed back. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Jessica's words. You're going to die alone. Was she right? Was I destroying my relationship with my son over a house? But it wasn't about the house. It was about respect, dignity, the fact that they'd treated me like I was disposable. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. An email from Patricia Henderson. Helen, the eviction notice has been filed with the court. It's official now. There's no turning back. Are you certain you want to proceed, Patricia? I stared at that email for a long time. Then I typed, I'm certain. Proceed. And pressed. Send. There was no turning back. Now the official court notice arrived at their house 3 days later. I know because Michael called me at 7 a.m, his voice barely controlled. A court summons, Mom. You actually filed with the court. It's the legal process, Michael. Everything has to be documented. This is insane. You're taking us to court. Your own son, no Michael. I'm reclaiming my property through the proper legal channels. There's a difference. He hung up on me. An hour later, they showed up at my door. Both of them. I watched through the window as Jessica practically dragged Michael up my walkway, her face twisted with fury. I opened the door before they could knock. We need to talk, Jessica said, pushing past me into my house. Right now. You're in my home, Jessica. I suggest you adjust your tone. She whirled on me, eyes blazing. Your home, your house. That's all you care about, isn't it? Property, money, things. Not your son, not his happiness, just your precious investment. You removed load-bearing walls without permits, I said calmly. You caused water damage. You've probably devalued my property by... We improved it, she screamed. We made it beautiful. We turned that boring, outdated house into something modern and valuable, and this is how you repay us. You destroyed it, and you did it without my permission. Michael stepped forward, his face pale. Mom, please, can we just talk about this reasonably? I've been trying to talk to you for months, Michael. Every time I called, Jessica answered. Every time I visited, I was made to feel unwelcome. And when I dared to expect to see you for Christmas in a house I provided, you told me to stay away. That was a mistake. It was a choice. I looked at my son. Really? Looked at him. You've made a lot of choices, Michael. You chose to let your wife insult me at Thanksgiving. You chose to stop calling me. You chose to push me out of your life. Now I'm making a choice too. Jessica's expression shifted. The anger melted into something calculated, dangerous. "You want to play hardball," she said softly. "Fine, let's play." She pulled out her phone, began typing furiously. "I'm posting on social media right now about how Michael's elderly mother is evicting him right before Christmas, how she's making her only son homeless. I have 5,000 followers, Helen. By tomorrow, everyone will know what kind of person you really are." "Go ahead," I said, though my stomach clenched. "I'll call every news station in the city. Cruel mother evicts son during holidays. That's a great story. They'll eat it up." The truth is also a great story. Entitled couple destroys property owner's house without permission, complete with documentation of unpermitted construction and thousands in damage. Jessica's face flushed red. "You get out of my house. We'll sue you," she hissed. "For emotional distress for everything we've put into that house. Well, with what money, Jessica, you quit your job, remember? And Michael," I looked at my son, "how much do you have saved? Enough for a lawyer who can fight this." The silence was damning. "You have 26 days left," I said quietly. "I suggest you use them to find a new place to live." After they left, I collapsed on my couch, shaking. The confrontation had taken everything out of me. Jessica's threats echoed in my mind. Social media news stations, public humiliation. What had I started? For the next 3 days, I barely left my house. I was exhausted physically, emotionally, spiritually. I'd stood up to them, yes, but at what cost? I turned off my phone, didn't check email, didn't look at social media. I just needed silence, peace time to breathe, and remember why I was doing this. I spent those days in my garden, the one I'd cultivated for 15 years. I pruned my roses, watered my herbs, sat in the winter sun, and let the quiet restore me. On the third day, my neighbor Margaret came over with a casserole. "Haven't seen you in a few days," she said gently. "Are you all right?" I almost lied, almost said everything was fine. But Margaret had been my neighbor for 12 years. She'd been there when I went through cancer treatment. She knew me. "I'm having trouble with Michael and his wife." I admitted I heard. She set down the casserole. "Jessica posted something online. A lot of people are talking." My heart sank. "What did she say? That you're evicting them, that you're cruel and vindictive?" Margaret paused. "But Helen, I also know you, and I know you wouldn't do something like this without a very good reason." Tears pricked my eyes. "She's turned him against me, Margaret. My own son, and they damaged my house, the one I bought for them. Load-bearing walls, removed water damage, no permits, tens of thousands in repairs." Margaret's eyes widened. "Oh, Helen, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but I couldn't keep letting them treat me like I didn't matter." She reached over and squeezed my hand. "Then you stand your ground. You hear me? You stand your ground." That simple support, that belief in me, was like water in a desert. I wasn't alone in this. Not completely. The next morning, I woke up feeling stronger. Margaret's words had given me something I'd been missing. Validation. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't cruel. I was protecting myself. I turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls from Michael, 8 from numbers I didn't recognize, dozens of text messages. I started reading through them carefully. Most were from Michael. "Please call me. We need to fix this. Mom, I'm begging you." But 3 messages stood out. They were from Jessica's phone, but the tone was different, softer, almost conciliatory. "Helen, this is Jessica. I think we got off on the wrong foot. Can we talk? Just you and me? I know I've made mistakes. I'd like to apologize properly. Coffee this week. I care about Michael. I know you do too. Let's work this out for his sake." I stared at those messages. Was this genuine or another manipulation? I decided to ignore them. But an hour later, my doorbell rang. Jessica stood on my porch alone. She was dressed simply, jeans, a sweater, minimal makeup. Her eyes were red as if she'd been crying. "I know you don't want to see me," she said quietly, "but please just give me 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I let her in. She sat on my couch, hands folded in her lap, looking smaller, somehow vulnerable. "I've been awful to you," she began. "I know that now. I was jealous. I think of your relationship with Michael, of how much he loves you. I felt like I had to compete for his attention, and I handled it terribly." The apology sounded rehearsed, but there were tears in her eyes. "I never meant for things to get this bad," she continued. "The text about Christmas, that was me being petty and cruel. Michael didn't even want to send it. I made him do it. And I'm so sorry." I said nothing, just watched her. "I know we messed up the house renovations. We should have asked you first. We should have gotten permits. We were just so excited about making it our own. And we made mistakes, big mistakes." She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face now. "Please don't do this. Please don't evict us. We'll fix everything. We'll get the permits retroactively. We'll pay for all the repairs. Just please don't take our home. Our home." There it was again. "I'll do anything," she whispered. "I'll apologize publicly. I'll delete all my social media posts. I'll sign something saying I was wrong, that you're a wonderful mother-in-law, whatever you want." I felt something cold settle in my chest. This wasn't remorse. This was desperation. She was offering me anything except the one thing that mattered. "Do you love my son, Jessica?" She blinked, startled. "Of course I do." "Then why did you spend the last year isolating him from his mother? Why did you intercept my calls? Why did you make him feel guilty for wanting to see me?" I didn't lie to me. Not now." I leaned forward. "You want me to drop the eviction fine. Here's what I need. I need you to genuinely respect me, to stop treating me like a threat, to let Michael have a relationship with his mother without making him feel guilty about it." Her face shifted, just for a second. I saw it. The flash of anger, of resistance. She didn't want to give up that control. "I can do that," she said, but her voice was tight. "No, you can't." I stood up. "Because you don't see me as a person, Jessica. You see me as competition, as an obstacle, and nothing I do will ever change that. That's not true. The eviction stands. You have 23 days left." Her tears vanished instantly. The mask dropped. "You're going to regret this old woman. Michael will never forgive you. You'll spend the rest of your life alone wondering why your son doesn't call, why he doesn't visit, why you never meet your grandchildren. Get out." She left, slamming the door behind her. I sat in the silence, my heart pounding, but I felt clear, certain. Jessica had just shown me exactly who she was. The tears, the apology, the vulnerability, all of it was performance, manipulation. I'd almost fallen for it. That afternoon, I called Patricia Henderson. "The daughter-in-law just tried to manipulate me into dropping the eviction," I told her. "That's not surprising." "How did you respond?" I said, "No." "Good." I could hear the approval in Patricia's voice. "Helen, I want you to know. I've been doing this for 25 years. I've seen a lot of family property disputes, and in my experience, the people who fight the hardest are usually the ones who have the most to hide." "What do you mean I think you should hire a private investigator? Look into Jessica's background, her finances, because something tells me there's more going on here than just family drama." A private investigator. That seemed extreme. But then again, a month ago, evicting my son had seemed extreme too. "Send me a referral," I said. That evening, Margaret came over again, this time with her sister Carol, whom I'd met a few times over the years. "We heard Jessica came by," Margaret said. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. She tried to manipulate me. It didn't work." Carol, a retired school principal with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense, nodded approvingly. "Good. That girl is bad news. I've seen her type before. Sweet as pie when she wants something vicious when she doesn't get it. You think I'm doing the right thing? I think Carol said firmly that you're protecting yourself from someone who doesn't have your best interests at heart. And that's always the right thing. Their support meant everything. I wasn't some cruel mother. I wasn't overreacting. I was defending myself against someone who'd been systematically trying to erase me from my son's life. And I wasn't going to stop now. The private investigator, a woman named Sharon Rivera, came to my house 2 days later. She was in her 40s, professional with a direct manner I appreciated. Patricia Henderson speaks highly of you, she said, setting up her laptop at my kitchen table. She said you need background on your daughter-in-law. I explained the situation, the eviction, the manipulation. Jessica's sudden personality shifts. Sharon took notes. Do you know Jessica's maiden name? Morrison. Jessica Morrison. Previous employment. I realized I knew almost nothing about Jessica's past. She'd worked at some marketing firm when she met Michael, but I couldn't remember the name. She'd quit last month to start her own business, but I'd never heard details about what that business actually was. I'll find out what I can, Sharon said. Give me a week! 4 days later, on a Saturday morning, my doorbell rang at 9:00 a.m. Michael and Jessica stood there together. But this time, their entire demeanor was different. Michael looked determined. Jessica had a folder in her hands and a smile on her face. Warm, genuine, the kind she used to give me in the first year of their marriage. Mom, Michael said we want to apologize properly. Can we come in? Something felt wrong, but I stepped aside. They sat on my couch close together, presenting a united front. Jessica opened her folder. We've been thinking about everything you said, she began, her voice honey sweet. And you're absolutely right. We should have gotten permits for the renovations. We should have communicated better. We should have treated you with more respect. She slid papers across my coffee table. We've contacted 3 contractors. These are estimates for fixing everything. The walls, the water damage, getting the permits retroactively. We're prepared to pay for all of it. I looked at the estimates. $43,000 total. With what money? I asked quietly. Michael cleared his throat. I've been approved for a personal loan. It's all arranged. A loan. I looked at my son. You're going to go into debt to fix damage you caused to my house. It's the right thing to do, he said. And Mom, we want to buy the house from you officially. We'll get a mortgage, pay you fair market value, make everything legal and proper. I should have felt relief. This was a solution, a way to end the conflict, keep my son in my life, and get compensated for the property. But something in Jessica's eyes made me pause, a glint of triumph, of certainty that she'd won. That's very generous, I said slowly, but the eviction stands. Jessica's smile tightened just slightly. Helen, we're trying to make this right. We're offering you everything you asked for. I didn't ask for money, I asked for respect, and we're giving you that. Her voice rose slightly before she caught herself. We're here, aren't we? Apologizing, offering to fix everything. What more do you want? I want you to mean it. Silence. Michael leaned forward. Mom, please. This is our olive branch. Our way of showing you we're serious about changing, but we need you to meet us halfway. Drop the eviction. Let us make the repairs. Let us buy the house and we can all move forward. As one happy family, I asked. Yes, Jessica said quickly, too quickly. I stood up, walked to my window, looked out at my garden. If I drop the eviction, I said quietly, what changes really? You'll still think of it as your house. You'll still resent me for asserting my ownership, and eventually we'll be right back here with you, treating me like an inconvenience and me wondering where my son went. That's not fair, Michael started. Isn't it? I turned to face them. Jessica, be honest. If I drop this eviction, will you genuinely welcome me into your lives? Will you stop intercepting Michael's calls? Will you invite me for Christmas next year without me having to beg? She opened her mouth, closed it. Her mask was slipping. You can't even say yes, I said softly, because you're asking me to pretend. Jessica exploded, standing up. You want me to pretend that everything is fine, that we're best friends, that I enjoy having my mother-in-law hovering over every aspect of our lives. There it was, the truth. I'm not hovering, I said calmly. I'm existing, and you can't even tolerate that. Michael stood too, his face anguished. Mom, she didn't mean yes, she did. I looked at my son. She meant every word, and you know it. Jessica grabbed her folder, her face flushed with rage. We tried to be reasonable. We tried to compromise. But you're just a bitter, lonely old woman who can't stand that your son has a wife now, that he chose someone else. I don't mind that he chose you, Jessica. I mind that choosing you meant erasing me. We're done here, she snapped. Come on, Michael. But Michael didn't move. He stood there looking between us, his face torn. Michael, Jessica said sharply, let's go. Maybe he started. Maybe Mom has a point. Are you serious right now? Jessica's voice turned icy. After everything I've done for you, after I've stood by you, supported you, built a life with you, you're going to side with her. The ultimatum was clear. Choose me or choose your mother. I watched my son's face, watched him struggle, watched him make his choice. We should go, he said quietly. They left. I stood in my empty living room, shaking not from fear, from rage, from the sheer audacity of their manipulation. They'd come here pretending to make peace. But it was all a trap, a way to get me to drop the eviction while changing nothing about their behavior, but I'd seen through it. And now I was more certain than ever. I was doing the right thing. Sharon Rivera called me the next morning. Helen, I've got your information on Jessica Morrison. We need to meet today. The urgency in her voice made my stomach drop. What did you find? Not over the phone. Can you come to my office in an hour? I drove there in a daze. What could be so serious that Sharon wouldn't discuss it on the phone? In her office, Sharon pulled up files on her computer. Jessica Morrison, she began, is not who she claims to be. What do you mean? Her real name is Jessica Morrison. Yes, but the marketing job she told your son about it lasted 3 months before she was fired for embezzlement. Small amounts. She was taking money from petty cash, falsifying expense reports. The company didn't prosecute, just terminated her and blacklisted her in the industry. I felt cold. Michael doesn't know this. There's more. After that, she worked for a real estate investment company, also fired this time for forging client signatures on documents. Again, no prosecution. The company wanted to avoid scandal, but there's a pattern here. Helen Jessica has a history of financial misconduct. Sharon clicked to another screen. She's also in debt, significant debt. Credit cards, personal loans, even a payday loan. She took out 3 months ago. She owes over $60,000. $60,000, and she'd quit her job to start a business. One more thing. Sharon's expression was grim. I found evidence that Jessica has been researching property law, specifically adverse possession and tenant rights. She's been looking into how long someone has to live in a property before they can claim ownership. The pieces clicked together in my mind. Jessica hadn't been trying to drive me away because she disliked me. She'd been trying to establish complete control over the house, my house, so she could eventually claim it as hers. This wasn't about family drama. It was about theft. What do? I asked. You document everything and you make sure that eviction goes through, because if they stay past the 30 days, they become holdover tenants, and removing them gets much harder. I left Sharon's office with copies of everything she'd found, proof, evidence, documentation of exactly who Jessica really was. That evening, I invited Michael to dinner. Just him. I texted, "Please come alone. We need to talk. This is important." He arrived looking wary. "If this is about the eviction, sit down, Michael." I made him his favorite meal pot roast the way I used to make it when he was a child. We ate in tense silence. Then I put the folder on the table. "I hired an investigator to look into Jessica's background," I said. His face went white. "You did what? Read it." "I'm not going to." "You had no right, Michael." I kept my voice calm. "Read it, please." He opened the folder. I watched his face as he went through page by page. The employment terminations, the embezzlement, the falsified documents, the debt, the searches on property law. This can't be right," he whispered. "Jessica told me she left those jobs because of toxic work environments. She lied to you." No, but his voice lacked conviction. "She's been planning this, Michael. The isolation the renovations without permits the attempt to make you think of the house as yours. She's been trying to establish a claim to my property. That's insane. Is it? Look at the evidence. Look at her debt. She needs money, Michael, and she saw an opportunity in my house." He stood up, pacing. "You're wrong. You have to be wrong. Jessica loves me. I'm sure she does, but she also loves what you can give her. Stability, a house, a way out of her financial problems. I need to talk to her." He grabbed the folder. "Michael, wait." But he was already gone. I sat alone at my dinner table, the pot roast growing cold. I'd done it. I'd shown him the truth. Now I had to wait and see if he'd believe it. 3 hours later, my phone exploded with calls. "Michael, Jessica, Michael again." I didn't answer. Then a text from Michael. "We need to talk, all three of us. Tomorrow, please." I wrote back. "My house, 10:00 a.m. and Michael. I want the truth this time." The next morning, they arrived separately. Michael looked like he hadn't slept. Jessica looked cornered. Dangerous. We sat in my living room. I had copies of Sharon's report on the coffee table. "Is it true?" Michael asked Jessica, his voice hollow. "The embezzlement, the firings, the debt." Jessica's eyes flickered between us. "Those reports are biased. The companies wanted scapegoats. I didn't do anything wrong." $60,000 in debt, Jessica. Were you ever going to tell me I was handling it by quitting your job? His voice cracked. By spending money on renovations we couldn't afford. By researching how to steal my mother's house. That's not what I was doing. But her voice was too shrill, too defensive. I spoke quietly. "You've been isolating Michael from me, destroying my property, researching adverse possession. Tell me, Jessica, what was your end game?" She looked at me with pure hatred. "You've poisoned him against me. You couldn't stand that he chose me, so you answer the question." Silence. Then Michael spoke, his voice cold in a way I'd never heard before. "Get out, Michael. Get out of this house now." Jessica looked between us, realizing she'd lost. The mask shattered completely. "You'll regret this," she spat at me. "Both of you will regret this." And she was gone. After Jessica left, Michael collapsed onto my couch, his head in his hands. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. "I'm so sorry, Mom," he finally whispered. "I'm so sorry." I sat beside him. "Michael, I believed her about everything, the jobs, the debt, the God, the way she talked about you. I let her convince me that you were the problem, that you were controlling and manipulative. And all along, she was." His voice broke. "She was very convincing," I said gently. "That's not an excuse." He looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. "You're my mother. You raised me alone. You worked 2 jobs to give me everything. And I chose her. I sent you that text telling you not to come to your house for Christmas. What kind of son does that one who was being manipulated by someone very skilled at it?" He shook his head. "I should have seen it. The way she'd answer your calls. The way she'd make little comments about you so subtle I thought I was imagining it. The way she'd get upset if I wanted to visit you. I told myself I was being a good husband supporting my wife, but I was abandoning you. You're here now, I said quietly. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Maybe not, but you have it anyway. We sat together in silence. My son, my boy, back from wherever Jessica had taken him. What happens now, he asked. Now you move out of that house. The eviction stands. He nodded. I know. I'll start looking for apartments today. Jessica and I are done. I can't be with someone who would do this. She'll try to convince you otherwise. I know, he looked at me, but I'm done being manipulated. I'm done choosing her over you. Over the next 2 weeks, Michael moved his belongings out of the house. Jessica tried everything. Tears, rage, promises to change, threats of suicide, but Michael held firm. He filed for divorce. He moved into a small apartment across town. Jessica, meanwhile, spiraled. She refused to leave the house, claiming tenant rights. But Patricia Henderson was ready. We had documentation of everything. The unpermitted renovations, the property damage, the 30-day notice, the court filing. When the sheriff came to enforce the eviction, Jessica screamed at them from the doorway. This is my house. I've lived here for 5 years. You can't just throw me out. Ma'am, this property is owned by Helen Chen. You were given proper notice. You need to vacate now. She called me every name imaginable. Said I'd ruined her life. Said I was a vindictive monster who destroyed her marriage because I couldn't let my son be happy. But in the end, she left. I stood in the house afterwards, surveying the damage, the removed walls, the water stains, the destruction they'd caused, to something I'd built with my own hard-earned money. It would cost $43,000 to repair. According to the estimates, money I didn't have lying around, but it was mine again. My property, my investment, my future security, and Jessica couldn't touch it anymore. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from Jessica's attorney. She was suing for unjust enrichment, claiming she'd improved the property and deserved compensation for her renovations. I showed it to Patricia Henderson. Patricia laughed. Actually laughed. She destroyed your property with unpermitted construction and now wants you to pay her for it. This will be dismissed so fast her head will spin. And it was. The judge took one look at the documentation, the building code violations, the lack of permits, the property damage, and threw out Jessica's lawsuit. Not only that the judge ordered Jessica to pay my attorney fees, she declared bankruptcy 3 months later. I heard through Michael that she'd moved back to her parents' house in another state. Her online business had never materialized. Her debt had grown. And without Michael's income, she couldn't maintain the lifestyle she'd built on credit cards and lies. The house sold 6 months later. I couldn't afford the repairs, so I sold it as is to a developer. I still made a profit. Not as much as I would have with a fully renovated property, but enough. Enough to secure my retirement, enough to prove that standing up for myself had been worth it. Michael helped me pack up the last items from the house. As we carried boxes to my car, he paused. I never thanked you, he said. For what? For not giving up on me. For fighting for yourself, even when it meant fighting against me. You could have just accepted it. Accepted being pushed out of my life. A lot of mothers would have. I'm not a lot of mothers, I said. He smiled. A real smile. The first genuine smile I'd seen from him in over a year. No, he said. You're not. We went to dinner that night, just the two of us, like we used to before Jessica. We talked about everything, his job, my garden, his plans for the future. He asked about my health, my friends, my life. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I had my son back. Not because I'd won some battle, but because I'd refused to lose myself. A year passed then, another. My life transformed in ways I never expected. With the money from the house sale, I finally took the trip to Japan I'd been dreaming about for decades. I spent 3 weeks there, visiting temples soaking in hot springs, eating food that made me close my eyes in bliss. I sent Michael postcards from Kyoto, from Tokyo, from a tiny village in the mountains. When I came back, Margaret convinced me to join her book club. I found myself surrounded by women like me, strong women who'd survived divorces, cancer, difficult children, financial struggles, women who refused to become invisible. Michael came to dinner every Sunday. It became our tradition. He'd arrive at 5:00 p.m. with wine or dessert, and we'd cook together, talking about his week, his job, his therapy sessions. Yes, therapy. He'd started seeing a counselor to work through what he called the Jessica years, to understand how he'd been manipulated. I was so desperate to be a good husband, he told me one Sunday. I thought supporting my wife meant agreeing with everything she said, even when she was cruel. You know better now, I said. I do, thanks to you. He started dating again cautiously. He brought one woman, Karen, to meet me after 6 months. Karen was straightforward, kind, and when she disagreed with Michael about something, she said so clearly and respectfully, "Your mom is amazing," she told Michael over dinner. The way she traveled to Japan alone at her age, that takes courage. "She's the strongest person I know," Michael said, and the pride in his voice made my heart swell. I invested some of the house money in my garden. I built a greenhouse, started growing orchids, rare roses, vegetables I sold at the local farmer's market. It became a small business, not enough to live on, but enough to give me purpose, community, something to nurture and watch grow. People in the neighborhood started calling me the Orchid Lady. I taught workshops at the community center, made friends, built a life that was rich and full and entirely mine. Meanwhile, Jessica's life had gone from bad to worse. The bankruptcy had destroyed her credit. She'd tried to start several online businesses, but none succeeded. She'd moved from her parents' house to a studio apartment, then back to her parents' house again. She'd gotten engaged to someone she met online, but that relationship ended when her fiancé discovered her debt and her history of financial fraud. "She keeps calling me," Michael admitted one Sunday. "Block numbers. She wants to talk about closure." I don't respond. "Good," I said. 2 years after the eviction, I got a message on social media from Jessica. "I hope you're happy. You destroyed my life. You took everything from me, all because you couldn't stand to see your son happy. I hope it was worth it." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I blocked her and deleted it because Jessica never understood. I hadn't destroyed her life. She'd done that herself with her lies, her manipulation, her greed. I'd simply refused to be her victim. My phone rang. Michael calling during his lunch break. "Hey, Mom, just wanted to hear your voice." "I'm here," I said, smiling. "I know, love you. Love you too, sweetheart." I looked around my living room. At the photos on my walls, me in Japan, me. At the farmer's market, me and Michael laughing. At the orchids blooming in my greenhouse. At the life I'd built, not despite standing up for myself because of it. On my 67th birthday, Michael threw me a party. Margaret and Carol and the book club ladies and neighbors and Karen came. We ate cake in my garden. Michael stood up and said to my mom, who taught me that love doesn't mean losing yourself, that setting boundaries isn't cruel, that protecting yourself is an act of courage. Everyone raised their glasses, and I thought, this is what victory looks like. Not revenge, not schadenfreude at Jessica's downfall, but peace, wholeness, a life lived on my own terms. I'd survived this, too. Not just survived, thrived. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. So here's what I learned. Standing up for yourself isn't cruel. It's necessary. Love doesn't require you to accept mistreatment. And protecting what's yours, your boundaries, your dignity, your property, isn't selfishness. It's survival. I could have accepted being pushed aside, Many would have, but I chose differently. What would you have done in my place? Would you have fought back or stayed silent? Think about it, and remember, you teach people how to treat you. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it gives you courage to stand up for yourself when you need it most. You deserve respect. Never forget that.